authentic series. I think a great series to start the year and to really get us to focus around what it means to be a Christian in our everyday life. And I think that's the thing. To me, there's an overall. It's about authenticity in life, and whether it be at home, work, or whatever, they're all just parts of that. So there's no. I'm just going to be authentic here or authentic there. I need to be authentic in my faith wherever I am. And I'm going to talk today a bit more about how that plays out in the workplace, or how that's played out in my life in the workplace, if you like. It was a scary thought this morning, actually. I was thinking back, and birthdays make you reflect a little bit, but it's now 39 years since I first started working. That's scary, but it's also an example of just how much of your life actually work plays a part of. I'm not done yet. I've still probably got another 5-10 years where I can be actively involved and still plan to be. So there's a lot of time, a lot of years that go in around their work, and so as a Christian, it needs to be a good outlet for you in terms of how you live your life, how you're faithful for God, and how God will use you in those environments. And I think for me, work it's actually never been about career. It's one of those funny things people are going to ask. I mean, I've certainly moved on in life and different work and roles, but that's not whatever's actually driven me. It's work to me, and the purpose of it has been about provision and God's enabling. Even before I was a Christian, I think in high school, I was going, what's the point of this? And it was about, I remember, I was praying in a sense that it was going to be about a family who I had to look after in the future. I needed to be able to be that provider. And I'm not thinking, don't hear what I'm not saying, in the traditional sense of man's got to be the provider. I'm married to a beautiful woman who's been a solid businesswoman all her life, since before we were married, running her own kind of practice and continually does. So there's definitely a joint partnership there as we've kind of grown together as a family. But for me, it's been an outlet both for my gifts and strengths. My first job, my only decision about it was reading a book in the library going, I'm good at maths, what jobs need maths? And electrical engineering was one. I thought, okay, I'm going to be an electrical engineer. Didn't know what it really was at the time. And since then, it's kind of been like that. As I've transitioned through different kind of careers, I've been making decisions actually based on values that I have. Not about, again, what's a good opportunity, what's going to take me to the next level, but actually, I've been commuting a few times, and you kind of get to the point, different stages in family, you go, look, that's no good. And so I need to actually find a job kind of local. So a lot of the times in that career, you're making decisions which are, they just seem wrong in a worldly sense. They're not what you would normally do if you're trying to continue to grow, earn more money, etc. But I think that's an important thing along your life and your career, that you be prepared and be open to actually let go of things and just trust that God has a plan for you in your work. God used the workplace to train me in many ways. He used it to actually move me to Sydney at a period of time, which I resisted big time. I was a Wollongong boy, I wasn't going to live in Sydney. But, what God did in the period when we were living in Sydney, again, we just look back on and go, that was just God's grace, and He's kind of used those situations. So it's been a kind of interesting kind of career through a number of different industries. But the thing I guess I really want to focus on is that the environment that you're in when you're in a workplace, and I think most people will understand that when you're working within a company, small or large, you are definitely in the world. You are in an environment where there is a rich diversity of people, views, and opinions. I could list off every continent and country where I've worked with someone who has kind of come from there, either directly from there or their background and ethnicity in those places. They have various wide-ranging religious, spiritual beliefs, non-spiritual beliefs. They have different views around life and society, what's family, what's their own personal identity. And they have different ages, believe it or not. The generations that come through, it's not just you're old or you're young. There are bands all the way in between, and it's interesting looking back and seeing that now, particularly with new people coming into the workforce, and they have very different perspectives on life and work. I think the interesting one of late is that there's actually a bigger focus around values and having a purpose, the company having a purpose that's not just about making money. When I started out, company mission would be make as much money as you can, work values, work hard. That was kind of the expectation that was accepted. Now, no way would you get past that. Your company has to have a company statement that shows social responsibility, whether that's green or helping a certain sector. You've got to have an outward kind of focus. The values internally are much kind of richer. And this is what's really interesting from a Christian perspective, is that a lot of the training I've kind of been through, different kind of courses, when they talk about values and behaviours in the workplace, you could almost quote scripture and verse to back up the values that they're saying. These are important and are what are beneficial for the workplace, for yourself, for the business. Honesty and integrity is a huge one. Being completely honest, I say, is a really big thing. But you know what? Having values written in a document or on a company website are one thing. Having people actually live them out. Now, in general, in society, when you say honestly, people go, oh yeah, want to be honest. But then there are some jobs where people go, well, honesty doesn't work here. You can be too honest. It's like, really? How can you be too honest? Part of the work I've done over the years and supporting kind of sales stuff and doing words, you kind of hear this phrase that, remember, we're in sales mode. I'm going, what does that mean? I'm just trying to tell you exactly what this is going to take. So you definitely have a very broad experience about demonstrating those values. I think integrity along with honesty is a big one. So the trust in the workplace is huge in terms of how it enables and how it can benefit organisations and people. But again, do you see trust all the time? I can go back to some of my first jobs and beyond, where you will see this played out in many different ways, and the people that you can trust and those you can't. It's just one of those things. How do you deal with conflict resolution? This is a good one kind of coming out again. Scripture and verse, you can go to Matthew, because people jibe and talk up about so-and-so, oh, you about them, oh, them, yada, yada, yada. And the first thing these days, if you go to HR and want to complain about someone, they'll ask the question, have you gone and spoken to them? Have you gone first, had that one-on-one conversation, tried to understand their position, what's going on? But no, people still kind of go out and do all sorts of weird and wonderful things. I should open up my notes at this point, because there's a range of different things I was going to kind of cover in that area. So values, a lot of the values are there, and as I say, a lot of them are just sound kind of biblical principles behind them. So in many ways, to be authentic in the workplace isn't hard, because you've got all these things kind of supporting you. But the fact is, as I said, you've got such a diversity of people, kind of cultures and backgrounds, and they're not just distance. You are there shoulder to shoulder every day of the week, or shoulder 1.5 meters shoulder. That's but that's the environment, and you're not just in there for an odd day or two. You are there day after day, month after month, year after year. So again, you've got a functional working relationship often with people that you don't agree with on different kind of values, where you've seen behaviours, you just go, oh, this is kind of not right. And how you go about that in your workplace is really important. I think if anything I want people to understand is that the workplace and businesses need you to be authentic. They need Christians to be authentic and live out those values, to be that salt and light and show how it works. Now, we're not the only one. Other people are generally good people, and they will kind of do the right thing as well, but there's plenty that don't. And again, it's just that opportunity for us to actually demonstrate, how God has impacted us and how we want to live in respectful ways, how we want to live in truthful ways, how we want to be just diligent about doing our work. Accountability in the workplace is, again, another kind of big one. But that trustworthiness, letting your yes be yes, your no be no, people need to know they can kind of rely on you. They need to know that you're going to do what you said you would do, and you go on about that, even when it's hard. People need to know. But the challenge, I think, from a Christian perspective is, as I said, it's that time frame. And, as I just said, I've been 39 years since I first started in the workplace, and more to go. I've been, over 20 years now in this one company that I've been with. So there are people there that I've been working with for over 20 years. So my relationship with them and knowing them is actually very rich. If I want to witness, it's not like the woman at the well where, first time I've met them, God, give me a word, let me know what's going on. You actually already know probably what's going on in their life, what their struggles have been, if they've been, had relationship, marriage issues, if they've had problems, health issues. You already know all that. So actually, again, those long-term relationships provide a greater opportunity to really share faith at a personal level. And I think in the workplace, to be honest, is where I've had the most opportunities and environments to actually sit down and have a serious discussion and answer questions about faith. Not just here's my 30-second testimony, Yep, I was going out with a Christian girl. I thought I'd better read the Bible. And in doing that, I learned about Jesus. And, he put his finger on my life and called me. And, there's the 30 seconds and off you go, life's changed. No, it's the half hour or more where you're just sitting with someone in an airport lounge or in an office at work, and you're then getting those kind of questioning about your life. How does that play out? Why did you think that, and what do they think? And so it's an interesting environment in that perspective to be able to create those kind of opportunities. So I think, I'm not an evangelist, but if you're an evangelist, go to the workplace, get a job. Because you'll have great opportunities. It's just this. It's if you want to train for multicultural ministry, this is true multicultural. It's not just one or two. We have an International Food Day occasionally in our workplace, and there's just a dozen different kind of cultures represented in the food that comes out and the experiences that people kind of come from. It's an interesting time, interesting kind of environment to look at from a Christian perspective. And as I say, the workplace needs us to be that authentic. They need us to be, God needs us, we need us. Work cannot be this separate thing. It's not, you talk about the Sunday and it's not like there's work, there's, family and there's, church. It's all encompassing. And I think that's the thing for me, that apart from all these kind of relationship people, this kind of career thing, is that God is invested in what I do day to day. As I said, he's taught me a lot through my work life. He's helped me solve problems. When I've had problems and I've prayed, creativity and solutions that kind of come where you need them. So it's, again, inviting God into that space, again, just reinforces that you're not there on your own. It's not something weird and a different thing. You are definitely in the world. The challenge is to be not of it, to live with those kind of godly values and principles. Now, the other side of whilst there's all those kind of great opportunities, the challenge of, decades in a work environment with certain people is that as well as you getting to know them, they get to know you. So they know your faults and they know your faith. I expect that they'll know your faith. They'll have heard about that. And they'll be looking for the opportunities. Whether they talk to you or not, they'll be observing and seeing how you behave. And that will tell as much of a witness as anything else you might say. And again, it's something that a long-term, over years, builds and builds if you kind of go about it the right way. Now, I'm not perfect by any means. The challenge in the workplace, you don't have the safety of a car if some drongo kind of does the wrong thing, where you can maybe vent in your private space. When you no one here. I mean, Ron's not here today, so I won't point fingers at anyone. But but in the workplace, you don't have that private space. You can maybe go and find a meeting room, but often it's in the midst of you are in a high pressure environment. So, work isn't always fun. It's rarely kind of fun. The fun bits might be the social around the side of it, and maybe some things are exciting, but a lot of it is pressure. And particularly through this last kind of period, people are under all sorts of strain, ourselves included, and that can come out sometimes. And I've been in that situation. But what's important, I found, is that, again, being accountable and owning up to that. Don't be afraid to kind of go, hey, look, sorry, I know that meeting we just had, I got a bit kind of upset, probably wasn't the right way to tackle it. Change the conversation then, but be honest about that. And I think that's a very real thing to be. As Heather and Liz and that were talking last week about, at home, things aren't always kind of perfect. Sometimes there's a mess. Well, it's no different in the workplace. The real difference is that it's far more visible. Yeah. Even at home now, even if you're working at home, what you see through a Zoom lens is quite interesting. I've learned a lot about my team as I've Zoomed them over the past 6 months, and see their family walking around or what's on the wall behind them, etc. It's an interesting experience. So look, I really just wanted to, again, just share that kind of personal experience, what I've found, what I've taken away. As I said, God's clearly got a purpose in your work life because it's a big part of your life. And if you're a Christian, God wants to be a part of that. And so letting men look for his guidance, be it for work or whatever. I think on the work front, one of the things I said when I started out, hey, maths, but what I found is that every job I've kind of gone to, it's just been about what's my ability at that point, and positions have kind of opened up. So I've never sat there and thought, in 5 years' time, I'm going to be... No, it's just, hey, actually, I need a job, need to move, whatever. What can I do now? I can do this. This job's lined up and doors opened up. The parable of the talents kind of goes through my head because, again, whether, regardless of what you're doing, these are the kind of values, things you can do. You don't need to be, running companies. You can be, doing whatever and live these values out. But I think what's interesting for me is a bit of a takeaway with the talents when it comes to work. It's the last guy... and this has been one of the challenges in work life is that, as a Christian, should I be working for a company that is run by a bunch of people that, don't share my beliefs and values, but are out there just to make money? And working for a company that's listed on the stock exchange, it's horrendous because you are literally working for shareholders who just want those dividends and profits, who you never meet. They've got no idea who you are. and don't care. They just want the company to make money. Anyway, that's a side note. But in those environments, you've still got to kind of work and live. And the Bible's full of examples of people, when you look at kind of Joseph and interesting career path that he went through. But look where God put him in the end. And then you look at people like Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach. These guys were serving, the kind of godless heathen empires, etc. But they held to their values and principles in the midst of that. And sometimes that was easy, sometimes it wasn't. And there have been times where I've, put my job on the line over certain things that I wanted to go to college and went and spoke to my bosses. Now, God turned that around, didn't have to give up my job, actually brought blessing, got time for a car. I mean, God does amazing things when you kind of least expect it. But it's about putting him first at all these points. Yeah, amen. So look, I'm going to invite Jess and Ado. Me? And we're going to rearrange. Put the stool in the centre. There's no marks over there, but I assume 1.5, thereabouts. Now, Jess, you didn't get queued up about this.
Doesn't matter.
So I'll hit up Adrian first.
Thank you.
So, Ado,
yes.
Yeah, just curious
By the way,
again.
sorry, Stuart. Thanks for sharing today. When I think of authentic people, I mean, we've got amazing people in our church, but you are someone that everyone looks up to and honours, and just want to honour your authenticity in our church and what you do in the workplace, in the world. You're an amazing person.
Thanks.
So we're getting some amens in the building, and I'm sure online as well. But just quickly, before I was chatting to a friend during the week and just saying, man, your stature in our church is really rising. And I just want to honour you and say your stature in our church is huge. So thanks so much for the wise words and everything you've shared this morning. It's really awesome. And yeah, we take it to heart.
Thank you, I think.
I don't know if you're expecting that, but yeah, it's just on my heart to share for you.
Cool. So look, interested just to get thoughts from people. And I think two things I was saying, Christian in the workplace can be good things and difficult things. So interested on either of those, in your experience, and even you're in an interesting transition period in terms of work and church and where you find yourself as well, and that would have been an interesting discussions, I imagine, in that workplace.
Yeah. So as most people would know, I'm in a transition, spending less days in my secular job, and going to up that this week in my job here at City Life, which really excites me. I'm so pumped to be able to spend more time for our church. But right up front, I was pretty clear with that, with my company. And I've been with my company, I think this is my 13th year, maybe 14th. And yeah, right up front, I said, it might have been in the job interview that, long-term future, I see myself in the church, and this is kind of where I am right now. So I guess that was authentic in letting them know my motivations. But then recently, as I was able to have the discussion with my boss about where I'm at and this transition point, he just easily said, yeah, I understand now. You've prepared me for this. We talked about this, so it's all good. And God's actually done an incredible blessing in our workplace to fill the position that I'm beginning to leave behind. So It's quite amazing.
It's an awesome example. In those interview positions in particular, being brutally honest is so good.
Yeah.
Because, it's one of those things that everyone's a bit, do I tell them the truth or not in the interview? Do I just try and talk up the good bits, etc.? You've got to be honest. You've got to manage their expectations in all ways. So, yeah, good one.
Yeah.
Cool.
Before I got my job as a vet nurse, the first job that they offered me was a kennel hand role every Sunday. And at the time, I was like, I need to get my foot in the door. But I said to them, every Sunday doesn't really work for me. And it didn't end up being my only opportunity. I was able to say, Actually, I go to church on a Sunday morning. I can't be the kennel hand from 9 till 11. That's exactly where I need.
I just want to know what a kennel hand role is now.
Oh, you clean the kennels. That's what that job is. But yeah, it was about being upfront from the beginning that I had choices around that,
and choices, yeah.
and then realizing that God had other plans for it anyway. I didn't need to feel like I needed to grab that opportunity because it was the first and only. It wasn't going to be the only.
Yeah, okay.
He always provides an opportunity.
Yeah.
I've been in my same job at the moment for about 8 years, and I think the whole team there know that I'm a Christian. And while you were speaking, I was thinking, you know, as much as you're your real self at home, you're your real self in the workplace because you spend so many hours there that you're pretty comfortable.
Yeah.
People really know you, and if you aren't being authentic, it will wear thin pretty quickly, and they'll be able to tell. And being authentic in client-facing roles as well. So people who, like I'm thinking of Lauren, who goes out and meets a different client every day. He just has to be authentic every single time because people can tell the difference. You know, they can tell whether you're really excited to do this job for them or whether you're just putting it on. And when I'm speaking to somebody at reception, they can tell if I'm like being sarcastically nice to you or if I'm actually being nice to you. So there are the people that you work with day in, day out who know you very well and you need to be authentic for them. But there are people that you just come into contact really briefly with that you need to be authentic to them. And I think people can tell the difference.
Yeah, I've noticed in our workplace we deal with the council. We deal with councils, Wollongong, Kiama, Shell Harbour councils, and I've always made an effort to be nice to council. One, because they have power and approve what we submit. But so many people, and it's easy, and I've had to write some tough emails at times and have some tough conversations. But yeah, you got to be authentic in those moments. And I've found that the more I've got along with council, I mean, that's just Christ-like, as opposed to what most people want to do is complain and whinge and have a go and storm into council and create a scene and tell them why they're horrible. Well, that's not very Christ-like. And but I'm like, come on, we've got to get along with them. We've got to be on their side and work together, and then we'll get the best result. So
I do remember going to a council meeting with you and Ron once.
Okay.
About our applications, and I think both sides of the coin were there. Adrian was... there was a view of, they're just obstructing, they're going to get us... So yeah, I've seen that in action, and
that was a long time ago.
Oh, very good.
So you were the other side of the coin, Stuart, were you?
Yeah. I must have been. I might have been on the fence, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
What you were saying about that people's values and things have begun to change as well, and that's a bigger deal in workplaces now. I think if you are consistently keeping your attitude in check, it creates a better culture for your team as well. The people that are working with you begin to reflect that in themselves as well, which I think everybody's happier that way. I think it does help everybody.
Every company has a different kind of culture, and usually it goes top down. And so whatever position you're in, if you've got that opportunity, yes, people that kind of report to you or you kind of work with can be influenced by that. So great to see that. And it's not just kind of throwaway that, it's good for the business. There's lots of articles out there and research that actually tells you these values, these behaviours actually make good business sense. It's a real world kind of benefit. So it's crazy, but so good for us, good for them.
It's really nice to know that, like you guys were saying, that the values are highlighted more, and that's where companies are going. And sometimes, like I'm sure we all know people that aren't Christian and are just really good. We've just had a little toddler have a tumble.
We've just seen a huge
Toddler tumble.
huge dive.
Yeah, we know people that aren't Christian, but they're just so nice. And like, I'm never going to out-nice this person. And in our companies, when those values are being highlighted, it's like, yeah, you know, sometimes it's a good challenge to ourselves. But the one thing we can bring to our company that others can't is that spiritual self. That's as a Christian, we have the Spirit, God's Spirit on the inside, and that's the one thing we can bring that is unique and different, and is the difference,
I think
the power.
another thing I've been, again, more comfortable doing in the last few years is also when people come asking questions, want advice, actually saying, well, look, from my perspective and what I would read from the Bible or from a Christian angle, this is how I would approach the situation. And
It's really good, Stuart.
being
You don't
able
have
to do
pretend
that
it's your idea.
more regularly.
You're saying like, this is what I've been reading in the Bible. Like this, you know, you don't pretend like you made it up. It's like.
But it's interesting to be able to do that and people actually kind of accepting that because they can see the practical sense of some of what you're doing. And that you can attribute that to the real source. Not just a manual, but here's the real.
That's authentic. Like, yeah, Christian's not just about I go to church. It's here's something I read this week, like that's helped me. So I love that, Stuart.